imagine a villain, right? Like so completely ruthless and just so utterly destructive that she actually forces the devil himself to admit defeat. Just think about that for a second.
It's hard to wrap your head around, honestly.
Right, because, I mean, we are just so used to the standard fairy tale setup. You know, you see the crooked nose, the bubbling cauldron, and you instantly know who the bad guy is and exactly how the story's going to play out.
Exactly. You get comfortable with those tropes.
Yeah. But today, we are looking at this ancient Moroccan folktale where Satan causes, like, a minor inconvenience, and an old, nameless woman responds by calmly burning an entire society to the ground.
It really just completely shatters our expectations of folklore. I mean, across the board.
Oh, totally.
We tend to view these ancient stories as, simple morality plays. But when you actually look at the mechanics of what is happening, you realize they're incredibly sophisticated Trojan horses.
Trojan horses, I like that.
Yeah, they're basically vehicles for processing deep cultural anxieties, complex gender dynamics, and, well, unspoken power structures.
Well, welcome to this deep dive. If you are listening to this, you are probably someone who loves to look past the surface. And our mission today is to explore how the single, seemingly straightforward Moroccan folktale just completely dismantles the global wicked old woman trope.
It really does.
We are pulling all of our insights today from a really illuminating academic article published in the Confluence Journal of Multidisciplinary Studies. It's by Mohamed Rouichi, and it is titled Female Cade in Moroccan Storytelling, The Woman and the Devil.
And that word right there in the title, cade, is basically the master key to this entire deep dive.
Right.
Because whether you are a folklore enthusiast or just someone fascinated by human psychology, understanding cade is going to fundamentally change how you view these narratives.
It's not just a simple trick, is it?
No, not at all. Cade doesn't just mean deceit or trickery. It translates closer to cunning or guile, but specifically, it is a weaponized social intelligence.
Weaponized social intelligence, wow.
Yeah, it's the strategy of the marginalized using the system's own rules to basically outmaneuver the powerful.
Okay, so to see Cade in action, you really need to hear how this specific story unfolds because, I mean, the stakes escalate so fast, it practically gives you whiplash.
It really escalates out of nowhere.
So the story is set in the high Atlas Mountains. There is this old woman sitting on a rocky peak, just looking down at a prosperous town in the valley below.
Setting the scene.
Right. And the devil-like, Satan himself, comes up to her, feeling all arrogant, and basically says, hey, want to see what I can do?
He is operating entirely on ego here. I mean, he just wants an audience for his malice.
Exactly. So the devil goes down to the town's bustling souk, the marketplace. He spots a man carrying this really heavy jar of olive oil. Satan sneaks between the man's legs, trips him, and the oil spills everywhere.
A classic petty prank.
Right. It ruins the oil, causes a bit of a commotion, maybe a minor financial loss for the guy. And then the devil comes back up to the mountain, incredibly proud of this minor mischief. But the old woman just looks at him, completely unimpressed, and says, watch me.
That response is chilling because it is so understated. I mean, she doesn't summon lightning or anything. She just promises a demonstration.
Right, so she goes down into the town and finds the young wife of a wealthy spice merchant named Abdullah. The old woman starts whispering to the young wife, planting this really insidious seed of jealousy.
She knows exactly where to push.
Yeah, she casually convinces the young wife that Abdullah is growing bored and is planning to take another bride. The young wife panics, of course, and the old woman plays the savior. She says, don't worry, I can make a magic potion to keep his eyes only on you. Just drug his tea tonight and cut off a few tufts of his beard for the spell.
Which, by the way, taps directly into the domestic magic, or sure, that is a prevalent cultural backtrack in this region. The woman is laying a trap using the everyday realities of her society.
And she moves so fast. The moment the young wife agrees, the old woman immediately goes to the husband, Abdullah.
She doesn't miss a beat.
Not a single beat. She plays the concerned neighbor and warns him that his wife has been corrupted and is planning to slit his throat that very night. Oh, wow. Right. So, cut to that evening. Abdullah pretends to drink the drugged tea and fakes being asleep. His wife leans over him with a sharp knife, intending only to cut a piece of his beard for the love potion. Abdullah sees the blade, panics, assumes the old woman was right, and he murders his wife in self-defense.
It's a complete tragedy born entirely of manipulated perception. And honestly, the brilliance of her cade is that she never even touched a weapon.
No, not once. And the destruction doesn't even stop there. The wife's family finds out she was killed, they assume it was cold-blooded murder, and they retaliate against Abdullah's family. A bloody, town-wide civil war erupts in the streets.
From a spilled jar of oil to a civil war.
Exactly. The old woman is back on the mountain, calmly watching the town tear itself apart. And the devil looks at the smoke rising from the valley, looks at her, and actually concedes. He literally says, I could never have done what you did.
He recognizes his own inferiority.
Yeah.
Structurally, the tale contrasts his physical, almost slapstick mischief with her absolute sociological devastation.
And she even takes it one step further. She invents a story about another, more powerful devil who supposedly gave her a magic ring. She plays on Satan's pride, tricks him with this fabricated story, and somehow manages to trap him inside a glass jar.
She literally captures the devil.
Yeah. Carrying the ultimate embodiment of evil around as her captive.
Okay, let's unpack this. Looking at how she operates, she is not just causing trouble.
No.
It's like, well, the devil and the woman are basically in a high-stakes poker game.
Mm-hmm.
The devil thinks he's a big shot playing a low pair, the spilled oil.
Mm-hmm.
But the old woman calmly goes all in with a royal flush of total annihilation.
That's a great way to put it. And if you think about it like a malicious social algorithm, the metaphor captures the mechanics perfectly.
Oh, how so?
Well, she isn't inventing new information or bringing in outside weapons. She just feeds people the exact anxieties they are already primed to click on.
Oh, like clickbait for their fears. Exactly. She identifies the vulnerabilities in the social code and exploits them. She knows the husband fears betrayal and the wife fears abandonment, and she serves them that exact content to make them destroy each other.
That is terrifying.
It is. But this raises the most unsettling question of the text.
Yeah.
Why does she do it?
Right, because usually a villain wants power or money or revenge for some past wrong. It's like a rogue computer hacker who doesn't want money or fame. They just want to watch the system burn.
Exactly. And the oral tradition gives us absolutely no backstory. We don't know her name. We don't know if she has a grudge against Abdullah or the town. There is literally no economic motive.
So what's driving her?
Well, the author of the article uses the psychological framework of Carl Jung, specifically through the lens of psychoanalyst Marie-Louise von Franz, to unpack this motive, or really this lack of a motive. They introduce the concept of the animus.
Okay, the animus.
Right? In Jungian terms, the animus is the masculine energy or analytical function within a woman's unconscious.
Wait, I always thought Jung framed the animus as a positive force, like a bridge to inner strength or creative assertiveness.
It is, when it is integrated properly. An integrated animus helps a person assert themselves and find meaning. But Jung and von Franz heavily warned about the negative or destructive animus.
Destructive animus.
Yes. They actually called it a death demon. When the psychological energy becomes untethered from human empathy and relationships, it turns inward and then outward as cold, calculated hostility.
Wow. A death demon.
Yeah, it manifests as a drive toward pure, obstinate destruction, completely severed from human warmth.
That makes the fact that the story strips her of all domestic ties makes so much sense. I mean, the storyteller doesn't tell us if she's a mother, a widow, or a sister.
Because any of those labels would anchor her to humanity.
Exactly. By making her a blank slate, she becomes this raw, walking archetype of the death demon.
Precisely. The oral tradition distills her into pure force. If she had a grievance, the story would just be a revenge plot. By removing the grievance, the story becomes an exploration of untethered, ruinous malice.
But the way she deploys that malice is so incredibly specific. She relies entirely on the social codes of her community.
She weaponizes the cultural reality.
Yeah, like when she lies to the young wife about the husband taking another woman, it only works because she weaponizes plausibility.
Yeah.
In traditional Islamic societal norms, a man is legally permitted to have up to 4 wives.
Right, the threat is real.
The old woman even twists the knife by telling the young wife, men naturally grow bored. She uses the very real structural vulnerability of the young wife's position against her.
The young wife is already living with the ambient anxiety that her security could be revoked at any time. The old woman she just gives that anxiety a face in a timeline.
What strikes me about the social engineering is how familiar it is. She doesn't need magic to destroy Abdullah either.
No, she doesn't.
She just needs to find the crack in his ego and his fear of his wife's hidden agency. Wait, the article compares her to a famous Shakespearean villain, right? How is she like Iago from Othello?
That parallel is explicitly drawn in the text, and it is vital because it shifts the focus from physical violence to psychological warfare.
Mm.
Think about how Iago operates.
He never gets his hands dirty?
He never directly attacks Othello. He just whispers plausible lies. He leverages Othello's existing insecurities about his age, his race, and Desdemona's fidelity.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The old woman operates with the exact same strain of Cade. She whispers one plausible lie into the wife's ear and a mirroring plausible lie into the husband's ear. She sets the parameters and lets their own fear do the actual killing.
It's terrifying because it highlights how fragile the whole community is.
Very fragile. And what's fascinating here is how this connects to a famous Moroccan proverb the article analyzes. A woman is tied by her tongue as the mare by its bridle.
On the surface, that just sounds like society saying women need to be quiet. But in an oral culture, why is the tongue specifically feared so much?
Well, in an oral, tight-knit society, reputation is literal currency. You have to remember, we are talking about a bustling souk.
Right. Everyone knows everyone.
Your honor, your creditworthiness, your ability to trade, and your family's marriage prospects all depend entirely on word of mouth. A whispered rumor doesn't just hurt someone's feelings.
It ruins them.
It can economically bankrupt a family and render them social outcasts. The tongue is the most dangerous weapon in the village.
So when the proverb says a woman must be tied by her tongue, it's basically an admission of terror. It's society recognizing that if a woman speaks out of turn, she can collapse the whole social order.
Exactly.
And this folktale completely inverts the proverb. Society tries to bridle her, but her tongue is unleashed. And the moment she speaks, Abdullah's family is destroyed, the souk is in chaos, and the proverb's worst nightmare completely comes true.
The story validates the cultural fear while simultaneously demonstrating the absolute impossibility of enforcing the silence. But it's also important to note that while her tongue is her primary weapon, she also introduces physical, supernatural elements into the mix.
Oh, right, the potion.
Yeah, she tells a wife she can brew a potion. This brings us into the realm of shur, or sorcery, which the article emphasizes is a very tangible reality in this setting.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The physical details of the sorcery in the text are fascinating. The article describes the actual markets where these tools are sold: animal hides, bird plumage, hyena skulls, snake skins.
It grounds the story in something very real.
It really does. But I was reading this and wondering, isn't the wicked old witch just a tired global cliche? The article brings up the Salem witch trials in 17th century America. Are we just looking at standard Puritan paranoia about women, but export it to North Africa?
Well, the text certainly acknowledges the global phenomenon. I mean, in Salem, nearly 80% of those accused of witchcraft were women. Throughout history and across continents, patriarchal societies have projected their anxieties about the unknown onto women, associating them with the occult.
Right. So it is global.
It is. But flattening this into a generic cliche misses the profound, culturally specific mechanisms at play in Morocco. To explain this, the article relies heavily on the work of the renowned Moroccan sociologist Fatima Mernissi.
I found Mernisi's sociological breakdown so illuminating. She points out this wild paradox in traditional Moroccan society.
It's a huge shift in power.
Yeah, when a woman is young, she is heavily scrutinized. Her value is tied to youth, modesty, and marriageability, and she has very little formal power. But when she becomes postmenopausal, she ages out of that specific marital value, and in doing so, she sort of slips off the patriarchal radar.
Exactly. The young woman is visible and controlled, but the older woman becomes culturally invisible, which actually allows her to operate in the shadows.
Ah, the invisibility is her power.
Mernissi explains that older women essentially take control of the domestic sphere. They become the ultimate gatekeepers of the community. They run the gossip networks. They arrange the marriages. They hold the keys to a family's social survival.
Wow.
They wield a quiet, formidable power that men cannot directly monitor or control.
So you have these men who hold all the official power. They run the souk, they hold the religious titles, but they are suddenly dealing with older women who are no longer confined by the strict rules of youthful modesty and who hold the social capital to make or break their families behind closed doors. That has to create incredible psychological tension.
It creates profound vulnerability and anxiety. The figure of the old witch in these folktales is the literal manifestation of that anxiety.
That makes perfect sense.
It is the patriarchal society trying to grapple with the very real backdoor influence of older women. And the text shares two incredibly vivid proverbs that illustrate this terror. The first one claims, "What Satan does in a year, an old woman does in an hour."
Which is literally the plot of the story.
Exactly. Satan takes his time spilling some oil, And she dismantles the town's entire social fabric before dinner.
And the second proverb compares a woman to a twisted serpent girded by Satan.
Oh, wow.
Notice the language there. It collapses the feminine into the serpentine, making her a symbol of venom, treachery, and hidden danger that strikes without warning.
That imagery is intense. But it makes you wonder if these anxieties are just like relics of the past.
Yeah.
Are these dusty proverbs just things academics debate in journals, or do they still matter today?
They definitely still matter.
Right, because the article shows that this isn't a dead oral tradition. This exact story was adapted into a Moroccan TV film in 2005 called Soukanessa, which translates to Women's Market.
Directed by Fatima Boubekti, yes. It is a brilliant example of how ancient oral storytelling continues to shape contemporary narrative landscapes.
The setup of that TV show is so telling, too. There's this young, brilliant imam, a religious scholar. He has mastered all the texts, he has all the official prestige, and his community really wants him to marry, but he refuses.
He thinks he knows better. He does. He says, no, before I marry, I must study women's war harp, Nisa. He genuinely thinks he can treat female psychology and Cade like a textbook he can memorize.
Right.
So he meets this cunning woman named Taja, and she completely outwits him. And in the show, she is the one who trapped a djinn in a jar.
Just like the folktale.
Yeah, it's like a modern-day academic thinking they can study a Category 5 hurricane on a piece of paper, only to step outside and immediately get blown into the next county.
He fundamentally misunderstands the nature of the power he's dealing with. He tries to intellectualize something that is a lived survival strategy.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the fact that this narrative resonated on television in 2005 proves that these archetypes are deeply embedded in the culture.
They really are.
The medium changed from spoken word around a fire to a television broadcast. But the underlying cultural work, the processing of male vulnerability in the face of female intellect, remains exactly the same.
So what does this all mean? Like, as we pull all these threads together, what is the ultimate takeaway here? If you are the listener sitting in your car making dinner, how do you categorize this?
That is the big question.
Because on one hand, it feels like a terribly misogynistic story designed to terrify men into subjugating women. But on the other hand, the woman undeniably wins. She beats the devil. Is this a patriarchal warning, or is it a bizarre feminist victory?
It is profoundly ambivalent, and honestly, that dual nature is what elevates it from a simple, scary story to a masterpiece of cultural memory.
Okay, so it's both.
Yes, on the surface, it functions as a strict religious and patriarchal warning against sorcery and female influence. The text quotes another proverb that acts as a moral deterrent. She conjured and wrote too much, yet fire was lit upon her grave.
Oof.
The implied meaning is that no matter how much cade or magic a woman utilizes in life, divine judgment and hellfire await her.
A reminder to stay in your lane because God is watching and the house always wins in the end.
Precisely.
Mm.
But the text also exposes a critical nuance in the culture, which is male hypocrisy. The society is well aware that male religious figures, faqirs, also practice shur and sorcery for personal gain.
Oh, of course they do.
There are folk proverbs mocking these men too. So the association of occult evil exclusively with women is exposed as a cultural construct designed to maintain power, not a divine absolute.
And when you look past the moral warning, you cannot ignore the actual mechanics of the ending. The old woman completely dominates the patriarchal order. She doesn't just survive it, she enslaves the architect of it.
It really forces the listener to ask, who is really in charge in this narrative universe?
Right.
Yes, the story demonizes her. It calls her a death demon and a serpent. But it also grants her supreme agency. She defeats the ultimate patriarch of evil, Satan. In a society that legally and culturally demands female obedience and silence, the oral tradition creates a liminal space where a woman asserts unrivaled, terrifying authority.
Wow.
To the patriarchal mindset, she's a monster, but she is an undeniably powerful one.
It's almost like the culture needed a psychological release valve. They couldn't openly praise female rebellion or acknowledge the backdoor power older women held, so they disguised it as a horror story.
Exactly.
You get to express your terror of the witch, but secretly, beneath the surface, the story forces you to stand in awe of her intelligence.
It is a narrative that encodes both the repression of women and the latent, unacknowledged admiration for their capacity to subvert the system. It is a story about survival and the terrifying lengths one might go to when denied formal power.
This has been absolutely incredible. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive through the peaks of the High Atlas Mountains, unpacking the mechanics of Jungian psychology, and decoding the hidden economics of Moroccan proverbs. It really changes how you look at the architecture of a simple story.
It really does. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder on your own.
Oh, definitely.
We have just spent this time analyzing how a traditional society used a folktale to process their quiet terror of female authority, gossip, and social change. Think about the world we live in today.
Okay.
Think about the viral stories, the outrage memes, or the digital urban legends you see casually shared and retweeted online. What hidden societal power dynamics and what secret, unspoken fears are we trying to process through the digital folklore we share every single day?
That is such a good point. Remember how we started this deep dive? How we usually want the villains to be simple, visible, and neatly categorized with a crooked nose. Well, next time you see a villain on your feed or read a viral story about a group of people behaving terribly, ask yourself, is this story showing you the truth? Or is it just a modern piece of candy showing you exactly what your culture is most afraid to look at? Keep diving deep.